Welcome to Dezan Shira Associates series of podcasts. With me today is Freeman, International Business Advisory Associate in our Beijing office. Dezan Shira Associates is a specialist foreign direct investment practice, providing corporate establishment, business advisory, tax advisory and compliance, accounting, payroll, due diligence, and financial review services to multinationals investing in emerging Asia. Since its establishment in 1992, the firm has grown into one of Asia's most versatile full-service consultancies, with operational offices across China, Hong Kong, India, Singapore, and Vietnam, in addition to alliances in Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Thailand, as well as liaison offices in Italy, Germany, and the United States. Today we will discuss deregistering a representative office, or an RO, in China. An RO is probably the lightest structure that foreign companies can establish in China and is often used as the first step into the Chinese market, engaging in liaison and marketing work. In this sense, an RO is essentially an extended arm of overseas headquarters or parent company and is not actually a legal entity with registered capital. They are fairly easy to establish and to maintain, but can only interact with Chinese businesses indirectly and are fairly limited in terms of operational scope, since they cannot actually collect revenue, issue invoices, or sign contracts, and will need to employ staff through a local HR agency. Establishing an RO typically takes 2 to 3 months. However, as we will see today, deregistering an RO generally takes a considerably longer amount of time. Why would a company need to deregister an RO?
As you noted, since an RO is not a legal entity, an RO will be deregistered rather than liquidated. Other types of foreign invested enterprises, such as a WOFE, would be required to be liquidated because they are legal entities, and this liquidation process would be similar to but more complicated than the deregistration process. According to the administrative regulations on the registration of permanent representative offices of foreign enterprises, most recently revised in 2013, a foreign enterprise shall apply for deregistration if the RO is required to shut down in accordance with the law, if the RO no longer engages in business activities upon the expiry of its period of residence, if the foreign enterprise terminates its business, meaning the parent company is being closed, or if the foreign enterprise terminates its RO, as would be the case if the RO is being closed because the company is leaving China, or if the RO is being converted to a WOFE.
Why can't a company just walk away from their RO without deregistering?
If an RO does not voluntarily deregister itself, the registration certificate may be revoked. If an RO has been ordered to shut down or if its registration certificate has been revoked or canceled by the AIC, no new representative office of this foreign enterprise can be registered within the following 5 years. Again, the exception to this is the voluntary deregistration process, which we will talk about today.
What does the deregistration process involve, and how long does it generally take to deregister a representative office in China?
The deregistration process is basically the RO registration process done in the reverse order, where the RO registration process would in general conclude with a tax registration. The RO deregistration process begins with a tax deregistration conducted with tax authorities and then moves on to the deregistration with other relevant authorities, including the Administration of Industry and Commerce, the AIC, where the official deregistration certificate will be issued. The deregistration process as a whole typically takes 3 to 6 months, but can take considerably longer, in some cases over a year, particularly if irregularities are found. This often happens in the tax deregistration phase.
Okay, let's talk about the tax deregistration. Can you explain this process in more detail?
The tax deregistration or tax closure is the first step in the deregistration process, and the official deregistration certificate for the RO cannot be issued by the AIC until the tax deregistration has been completed with both the local tax bureau and the state tax bureau. The tax deregistration phase is typically the longest and perhaps most difficult part of the deregistration process, as tax authorities will be looking to see that all taxes have been paid correctly and in full. As part of the tax deregistration, the RO will first need to have a local Chinese CTA firm audit the accounts of the RO for the past 3 years and issue a tax clearance audit report. Once the audit has been completed, the tax clearance audit report up to the current month, the RO tax returns, ledgers and vouchers, and tax registration certificate will then be submitted to tax authorities for review. These documents will first need to be reviewed and cleared by the local tax bureau, and then reviewed and cleared by the state tax bureau. Altogether, this process normally takes about 3 months, but again can take considerably longer if unpaid taxes or irregularities are found. Should any unpaid taxes or other irregularities be found by tax authorities at any point during this process, an RO may be required to submit additional documentation, pay penalties, or settle any unpaid taxes with tax authorities. Here it is important to note that until the RO has completed its deregistration with tax authorities, the RO will need to continue to file taxes.
What comes after the tax deregistration process?
After the RO has completed the tax deregistration process, the RO will typically close its bank account. Unissued checks and deposit slips will need to be returned to the bank, and money in the account should be transferred out. If the RO intends to transfer the account to the parent company, it will be required to provide reasoning for such actions and seek approval from the bank. At this point, the RO will also need to deregister with the State Administration of Foreign Exchange, SAFE, and with customs authorities. Obtaining a deregistration certificate from both SAFE and customs authorities is a mandatory part of the RO deregistration process, regardless of whether the RO has ever obtained a registration certificate from either of these authorities.
So when will the RO be officially deregistered?
Having completed all these steps, the RO will then need to officially deregister with the Municipal Bureau of the AIC. It is during this time the Chief Representative's working card will also be deregistered. As part of the deregistration with the AIC, the RO will need to submit the previously mentioned tax deregistration certificate, customs deregistration certificate, and the bank closure notification, amongst other documents. After review, the AIC will then issue the deregistration notification stating the official deregistration and termination of the RO, of which will be accompanied by an announcement of such in the China Industry and Commerce Administration newspaper. Here it is important to note that the business registration will need to be valid up until the official deregistration notification has been issued by the AIC. Additionally, the office lease of the RO will also need to be valid up until the official deregistration notification has been issued.
Once AIC has issued the official deregistration certificate and the corresponding media announcement has been made, is there anything else the RO will need to do?
The Enterprise Code certificate and the IC card of the RO will need to be canceled with the Quality and Technical Supervision Bureau, and the RO's CHOPS and record certificate will need to be canceled with the Public Security Bureau. The RO will also need to deregister with the Statistics Bureau.
Is there anything that will need to be done after the RO has completed the deregistration process?
After the RO has completed the deregistration process, it is important that the parent company request the return of and keep all accounting records and business documents to safeguard the interest of the parent company.
Thank you for joining us today, Kyle, and for your insight into deregistering representative offices in China. For further information on the topic, please visit our publishing subsidiary Asia Briefing at www.asiabriefing.com. Here you can find news, commentary, magazines, guides, and multimedia.